Welcome to the CPO Rising podcast series brought to you by Products That Count, the world's largest nonprofit community, engaging over 500,000 product managers and chief product officers united by a mission to empower everyone to build products that truly count. In a world flooded with products, only a few ignite passion, deliver value at scale, and transform lives. Behind those exceptional products are visionary CPOs and high-performing product teams. We recognize these trailblazers through our coveted awards, accelerate careers from PM to the C-suite and beyond through daily best practices, and serve as the trusted advisor to nearly all Fortune 1000 CPOs. Our corporate alliance includes Walmart, Ford, Cisco, Johnson & Johnson, Amplitude, and more. The most admired product leaders across industries serve on our advisory council, guiding the future of product leadership. Together, we're shaping a future where every product counts. Learn more at productsthatcount.org. Produced in partnership with Capgemini and Mighty Capital, this series brings you exclusive conversations between our resident CPO, Renee Niemi, and the 2025 CPO Award winners. Get ready for raw insights, real strategies, and the secrets behind their success. Let's get into it.
Hi there. Today I have with me Achuth Rao. He is the Chief Product Officer of New York Life. Achuth, first of all, I want to start by saying congratulations on being one of our top Chief Product Officers this year, and welcome to the interview.
Great. Thanks, Renee. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the nomination. That's truly exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's well deserved, and I've been really looking forward to this interview for a long time. Before we jump in, why don't we spend a second and have you introduce yourself, 2 minutes or less. Tell us a little bit about your company, although I think some of us may know what New York Life is. But what is product at New York? What is that at New York Life? What does that mean? So what is your current role? And maybe even a few stories on what got you into your current position. What led that up?
Sure. Let me take a step back, introduce myself. So I'm a kind of an accomplished business and tech leader, and I've been in the industry for like 20 plus years now. I started I'm a mechanical engineer by training, but I've been in the software space from day one, even in the days of mechanical engineering, developing software for mechanical design and analysis. And I think I started my career in doing software development in that space in a company called Ansys, and I think that gave me an opportunity to work very closely. It was a small company at that point, gave me the opportunity to work very closely with our customers, with our sales, marketing teams, sort of support teams. I think I saw the other side of the thing it takes to not only develop amazing products, but also to engage with the customers and support them and sell products. So I think it gave me a good overview into the 360-degree view of what happens across the product lifecycle for a successful company. And I think that's kind of what led me into product management. So I got my MBA from Carnegie Mellon and kind of shifted into a product management role in the same organization. So really kind of my career has spanned after that, working for primarily focused a lot on B2B, customers and B2B enterprise solutions across various industries, all the way from the product lifecycle management and engineering design simulation space. I had a short stint at Yahoo on the ad tech space, but then primarily in the commodity trading, risk management, higher education, ERP solutions and CRM solutions. I worked in a dealer track on kind of dealer management, engagement platform systems. And prior to New York Life, I was at ADP, in the HRIS payroll systems. And right now I'm the CPO of New York Life. So New York Life, just for the background, right? It's a 180-year-old company, a very successful organization. And we sell to our customers a range of financial products, all the way from life insurance to annuities to disability benefits, and also wealth investment type products like 529 and the others. So it's a very successful organization, but and our sales model is really through what we call agents and financial advisors. So these are a sales team which is integrated with New York Life, but not direct employees of New York Life, and it's a very unique business model. So they are our kind of sales team, and they are helping us kind of reach out to customers and things like that. So New York Life, though it's been around for this long, I think at this point we have a new CEO who's been in the role for the last few years. We are going through, I would say, 3 levels of transformation. At the business level, how do we really care about our customers, their experiences? How do we get towards what we call, protection first, holistic advice and guidance, rather than selling like these, random set of financial products which have no, connection with each other. And we would like to engage with our customers throughout their life cycle. And also we are moving towards a much broader strategy of a different type of segments in how we engage with our customers. So there is those things happening. Being a 180-year-old company, there's also a lot of focus on tech modernization and how do we leverage the latest, greatest technology to support and also, decommission old applications and old technologies. And finally, on the AI and data side, which is where I come in. So I am the chief product officer for the AI and data team within New York Life, and we work with the other two teams to support, right? So obviously, very we're doing a lot of foundational work at this point to get started to kind of clean up our house on the data and analytics. But what is driving all of this on AI and data side is all obviously the world of AI, and what we can, how we can leverage Gen AI and what we can do there to really help improve the experiences of our agents, of our customers, but also bring in a lot greater insights into their workflows, which was really not possible before, right? So I think that's kind of my primary focus. And I think I've been luckily over the last 2 or 3 roles. So before this, I was at ADP, and before that at Panasonic, and before that at Elsevier. I've really kind of, my roles have morphed into really focusing on data, AI, data products, data monetization type capabilities, and really working with large enterprise customers and enabling these things. So I think those experiences are really carrying forward, and truly excited to be in my current role. Yeah.
Wow, what a storied career. Thank you for sharing that with us. It also has to be uh, kind of really interesting to be bringing something as advanced as AI decision making. I have to imagine you're going to be looking at it from a, assessing risk on policies and to a 180-year-old company. So this is going to be a really fun conversation because it's not often that we talk to chief product officers of companies that have been around as long as New York Life has been. So I'm really looking forward to this. Let's focus on your career for a minute. You've really seen, you've had a ton of experiences. You've seen product leadership at all types of organizations for many years. Love your view on how kind of the top leader role has really morphed over even the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I think it's typically and I think it also aligns with what we need to do in our roles, right? I think that's the important aspect. And who is your customer? Can you identify your customer? What is the role technology playing to enable these solutions? So I think that's kind of what I have seen the journey to be. I think it used to be a very traditional, especially in the enterprise space, a very traditional uh, product leadership type role where it would take a very traditional engagement with your customers. Those engagements were sometimes very difficult and long term. You didn't have the right digital channels to reach out to them. Most of them were through personal visits or engagements or conference and those types of events you had to organize. And most of these engagements were through paper and things like that. You had to do a lot of things. We didn't have on the technology side, we didn't have the capability to quickly prototype and iterate and test and learn. And also, you know, understand your customers sitting in your offices, right? So we didn't have Google Analytics, we don't have Adobe Analytics. Most of these were on, software applications or products which were deployed on their local laptops or workstations, right? So, the things we had to go through to enable those things and keep the application up and ready, and you could really not like personalize or customize these things because those would become very big projects if you had to do any sort of customization. So you had to bring in professional services and those types of roles into play. So I think as we've kind of seen this go through this journey, I think starting with web applications where we could release things quickly, we could better understand our customers, really engage with them more proactively through all the various analytical capabilities and tools. But tools like Pendo and others, which are really helping understand customer journeys, life journeys, and also kind of moving into like more traditional enterprise pricing model to more user based or usage based pricing models, and how you are able to define product capabilities and features aligned with those things is really also helping a lot. I think cloud then changed significantly how these applications can be delivered, but now I think with AI, I think it's really going to be disruptive in nature, right? So, how quickly you can create code, how quickly you can put together workflows without having complicated UIs and things like that, which we are typically used to. How you and even the product teams, how they can leverage these technologies to for their day-to-day things, right? You have to write your typical PRDs and those types of documents. How do you use tools like Jira and others? How these tools can talk to each other automatically without folks having to, manually go and add in data. I think so. I think the overall journey of how the customer expectations and who is your customer and how technology is helping play a role there is kind of changing. So I think that the type of product leaders, the product managers we look for and hire has to evolve uh, as part of that engagement. So it's been kind of, if I were to really look back, maybe at some point I'll write a book about it, uh, but or maybe a blog about it or something. But I think it's an interesting journey as you can think through as we have matured and evolved. And I don't even know, and I think that's the other part. I think the things are becoming so short term, we don't even know what the next 3 or 5 years will hold. Something you might come through and we are not even aware of it.
Yeah, it's almost like as you were talking, I'm like, there's almost this Moore's law of efficiency that we're
Yeah.
experiencing with product management. What I really heard you say is really centered around understanding customer needs and our ability to deliver to those needs at
Yeah.
scale very, very fast has been, a huge change, which
Yeah.
and you're so right around the cloud, the internet/cloud. It's hard to believe it was not even 10 years ago where nobody was in the cloud, and it was so much harder to get automated data
Yeah.
analytics. You had to, yeah, it was just a much bigger lift.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really interesting stuff. As a leader, how does that change how you view strategy? Do you look at things in a shorter term? Do you still have a long-term vision? Like, how does that change your view, at your level?
No, I think obviously, right? I think the strategy has to be longer term and the vision has to be longer term, but it has to be adaptive because there could be disruption, right? Even in a company like New York Life, which is so old and so stable, we look at startups who are disrupting the market and coming into the space in certain areas, and we need to be nimble and adaptive to be able to bring in those capabilities. So I think, yes, as an organization, we look at maybe a 3-year plan of putting together the strategies, but really how do we execute on it is has to be very proactive and nimble and agile in that manner, because technology is changing, the customer expectations are changing, demographics are changing, the new players coming into the market where, should we build this capability ourselves or should we partner or buy somebody to make it happen? I think the startups are able to really come up so quickly now, and I think their ability to produce like the initial MVP is so quick and fast that for a large company like us, it takes a much longer to execute. So really kind of figuring those things out, I think. So that's kind of what I think really, yes, the strategy is there, but I think we always work with our business teams, our strategy teams to keep an eye on that. But my focus is really saying, how do we really be active and nimble and planning for the next 3 years in delivering these technologies and solutions to our customers, right? And so I think that's kind of what has really changed for us. And frankly, also, with AI, and I think we're doing a lot of pilots on agentic workflows and things like that. I think the opportunity to leverage that to deliver enterprise scale capabilities, which were, I would say, very traditional, very kind of one-dimensional in nature, and uh, is going to be the disruption, right? So you don't need to create fancy UIs and do A/B testing, do all these UX designs. I think those can be abstracted away through agentic workflows, and it can really talk to multimodal data, right? So it's like the businesses we are in, we have our customers and agents interacting with data. They are on Zoom calls like this. They are interacting with various contracts and documents. How does it all come into play to help kind of define and orchestrate? So I think those are the disruptions we are seeing. So I think it's very clear that I cannot create, my roadmap has to be very short term, and it's really gets down into how can I quickly release something, deliver something, measure things, and be aware of that I might have to change and pivot in certain areas because capabilities and technologies will be available as I'm developing these solutions.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating to
Yeah.
to think about this. I really want to underscore this notion of growth through acquisition.
Mhm.
How it sounds like that's a core part of what you look at long term when you're looking at strategically where you'd like to go. Do you guys tend to have a culture that's bent one way or the other? In other words, you prefer to just acquire the talent and the skills and the tech and integrate it, or do you prefer to build in house, or do you think it's kind of a mix, and is that directionally changing?
No, I think it's a combination of those things, right? So
Mm.
uh, at ADP, we were doing, so one of the important aspect for product role is you're very closely working with your strategy teams. You're closely working with your venture teams. So if most companies have their own venture teams and they are looking at investing in startups and those areas, and they have a pulse over the what's happening in the broader startup community and the VC community and where that is going. So we are closely connected with those teams. We are also very closely connected with our partners on the vendor side, right, on the technology side. So I think these three things really come together to really define the ecosystem of the capabilities we can leverage to deliver. In some cases, for if it is very well aligned with our business and long-term goals, we go through acquisitions. Those are difficult to do, especially in large companies, especially in regulated industry and things like that. A lot of things we do well are leverage through our ventures group, like even at ADP Ventures or New York Life Ventures, they have the relationship with the various venture capital firms, their startups aligned with, and sometimes we are investing. So we bring in those expertise and say, hey, how do you fit in within what we need to get done on our roadmaps, on our strategies, and how we can leverage those capabilities, right? So sometimes we leverage them for best practices because they know how this works. So we kind of bring them into play. The third angle is very important in leveraging the right, tech partner. So, everything we do right now, we have very deep engagement with AWS and OpenAI and Anthropics of the world to, not only leverage their expertise and their ecosystem to say, hey, we are not experts in this space. We don't do this every day, but we are domain experts. So how do we bring those synergies together and, make that happen so that, you're not like, you don't need to be figuring everything out on your own. I think that's the bottom line. And you need to be learning from what other industries are doing and how you can bring in those capabilities into your portfolio. Yeah.
I think that that's really smart. So it's basically, your options are make, buy, or partner, and it sounds like
Yeah.
you're doing a solid mix of all three, which makes a ton of sense. I've heard from a lot of chief product officers that the rate of innovation over the last even 2 years has been growing almost exponentially. And I'm sure a lot of this is driven by AI, but in many cases, it can be overwhelming. To the point that you just made, there's a lot of young, nimble startups that you have to be
Mhm.
constantly looking over your shoulder that are trying to, look at your space through a different lens. Like, you know, do you have a framework for how you think about like A, keeping up with innovation and or B, how you invest in innovation that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah. I think so. Keeping up with innovation is like, obviously, I had a manager long back and he used to say, Nihito, like nothing important happens in office type stuff, right? So you need to be out there, right? So you need to be participating in industry events and like, was it a couple of weeks back? I was at the Gartner Data and AI Summit, right?
Mhm.
So you really kind of hear from what's happening in the industry, what's happening in the across the vendor landscape. So you need to be part of that journey and part of those engagements and understanding, what are the trends, where things are going. So I think it's an important part of your kind of any product leader or CPO type role. I think so. Be really connected with that. Uh, Internally, obviously, you need to be engaged with some of your, you know, business functions, like I would say your strategy teams, your, venture teams, or it could be your sales team. I think being part of that, it again depends on, we have a very different business model here, but in a pure enterprise space, you need to be out there, working with them because you will hear from the customers what they are going through, right? So end of the day, you are there to serve the customers. So the customers are going through transformations, and you need to be really understanding, those aspects of it. The How do we execute on innovation? I think the way I have seen it really work is, I had an experience, a great experience when I was at Elsevier to get introduced to this thing around design thinking process. So, how do we create these smart, nimble teams, cross-functional in nature, but then we kind of go through this process called design thinking to test and learn and quickly iterate and take things in front of our customers, right? So I think that, I think, is a well proven methodology. With now technology obviously helps with that because you can really accelerate that process and put in something in front of your end persona and get their feedback, and or even test out the functionality or capability you're trying to say. And I think the biggest part of any innovation is measuring value. So you can do things for the sake of doing things, but if you don't have the mechanism to measure value, I think, so I feel those are things where, how do you define your product team structure? How do you define your Scrum team structure to enable innovation? Is kind of part of that process, because sometimes, especially in a company like ours, uh, we are used to doing things in a certain way, and if you let that happen, there is no innovation happening. So you need to kind of really define what does that mean, identify the top use cases, create a proper process in the team structure to enable that, make sure there is buy-in from senior management to with the right level of funding and oversight to make this happen. So, sometimes these innovation pools are very short term. You want to do an R&D, figure something out, but sometimes sometimes they lead to big initiative. So you need the right commitment and investment from so you can set up the right cadence of steering committees or stage gate processes, so that there are checks and balances in place. Sometimes you need a lot of investment to get through it, right? And especially when my experience has been at Elsevier, where we launched a 3-year effort in a new product development, and we had to go through this systematic process of starting with a small team and getting like a $250,000 investment, to ending up with a successful product launch from 0 to 1, with an internal investment of close to $10 million from our CEO. So to bring them along and go through this journey, I think is critical. So I think there are a lot of operational aspects of it, which also are key part of innovations, right? So because you can have a stunk team doing something, but then how do you take this to market? How do you scale? And
How do you
I think you
scale it?
need to be aware of all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, super important to be able to think through these pieces. Do you feel like the pace of innovation has sped up recently?
I think so. I think it's also driven by customer demands. I think customers are trying to do a lot of new things out there, and but they're all also expectations of what they expect from a company in terms of their experiences when you're engaging with the company and the capabilities they are looking for, right? So I think the pace of innovation has gone up, and I think it's more about how do you do more with less, in that sense, right? So obviously, you know, mm, the market and the environment outside has an impact. So you got to be careful. At the same time, you don't have a whole lot of big money to spend, but you need to be very nimble to innovate and show value. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. When you look at your industry, I'd love to get your vision of the future,
Hmm.
especially, in insurance, right? What does it look like? And what are you doing today to make sure that, New York Life is ready for when that vision is there?
Yeah. So yeah, I think so. Again, we are in the what we call personalized insurance, and we are not in like auto insurance or any other types of other insurances. So we are in kind of more of the personal insurance, personal financial product types thing, right? So I think what it takes is, and there are a lot of there's a fairly active competition in that space, like Northwestern Mutual and others, and so I think what it really requires is, do you have the right engagement and the capabilities to support it, to interact with your customers over their life cycle, right? So, if you buy a financial product from New York Life, typically your engagement with New York Life will be throughout your life, and it's just not going to be you. Your entire family will be part of it, because they might be beneficiaries sometimes, or they might also be buying other financial products, based on that. So I think it's right. How do you know I think the disruption we are seeing happening is, how do we as a company know you, who you are, where you're going, what is changing in your life? How do our financial advisors engage? Do they know when to engage with you, how to engage with you? uh, you know uh, do we understand our customer base holistically, rather than just as at the transactional level, right? So that we are able to not only provide better experiences, but also sell you more financial products, right? So that's kind of the general engagement. So of what New York Life as a company wants to do. So I think that's where we are going. I think it's been happening traditionally before in the company like New York Life, but it's not leveraging technology, right? It's been through personal contacts, it's been through personal engagements, and it's been through people writing letters, it's been people having relationship with each of you. So I think for us to leverage technology to scale that thing, and also some of the workflows we have seen, at least I have seen in the company, are so traditional in nature of me sending out an email with a report to you, right? Or me providing an insight through a very, you know, clunky dashboard. And, it takes forever to update those dashboards and things like that, even for our strategic or operational. So I think that's where I see, you know, not just from a customer engagement as financial advisor engagement, but also from an operational efficiency and cost saving standpoint, the disruption happening, right? So everything we are doing right now is, making sure we have the right foundations of data analytics and AI on the right platform capability, but then we are leveraging that to, improve and enhance customer experiences, customer self-service, so that you can do and learn a lot yourself rather than having to call somebody in your life. That was the kind of the manual interaction you always have. I've seen people writing letters or emails to thing asking for information rather than going to a mobile application and looking for all these details yourself, or updating that thing, information on the online. So, and even for our sales team, to getting to know the customer holistically, so that we understand the lifetime value of the customer, the propensity to buy new products, what should be the next best action we can propose automatically, how can we drive AI to generate those insights rather than doing your traditional reporting. How can we enable Gen AI so that you can ask a question, it will give you the answer, those types of things. I think that's where kind of the innovation is now happening within the organization to, prepare ourselves for the next, I wouldn't say 10 years, but at least the next 5 to 10 years, because technology will change. I don't know what will come out, and we might have to refresh this, but at least get something ready for the next 10 years, within my lifespan here. Yeah.
A lot going on. It's going to take a lot of great leadership and great product managers. What's your secret sauce for hiring great product leaders?
Yeah, so I think what we've been doing is two aspects of it, right? So one, we need product managers who understand the domain, who understand what it takes to engage and sell financial products, especially in this type of an industry. I think that's going to be that's a part where I'm making sure that we have the right folks who have that initial domain expertise, or at least we provide the right framework for them to learn that aspects of it. So, and that's kind of getting closer to the customer. That's getting closer to our financial advisors. Not sitting in our own silos and kind of developing capabilities and things like that. The second aspect of it, we are making sure there's, as I'm hiring and building my team from outside in perspective, making sure that we are bringing in the right folks with the right digital product management experience. I think the challenge I have seen, unlike if you're a software company or a startup, product management is well defined. Typically in the financial services industry, there's a gray area between program management and product management. So when you open up for a role, a lot of program managers apply, and it's kind of you're going to be careful to make sure that you're hiring product managers and not program managers, because program managers have a role to play, but they're not thinking from a product standpoint. And one of the big things we are trying to do is also leverage you know expertise from groups like SVPG and others. This is more of a cultural thing we need to bring in at the senior leadership level and all the way top down, of how do you move from projects to products. I think the mindset has always been like, let me get things done and move on. But, how do you think long term? How do you bring in the product framework? So we are bringing those folks and providing kind of internal training and using the right tools. In some cases, tools are missing. Like, even how do you manage a roadmap, right? You don't do this in an Excel sheet and, have a view of that. So bringing the right capabilities and tooling and providing the right structure. We have hired external scrum masters to come in and teach the teams around How do you write a good epic? How do you write a right user story? And, how do you go through proper Scrum planning processes, which look for a tech company will say, hey, that's like basic stuff. That's like product management 101. But, in a company which has not been doing it, I think it just becomes important that you need to keep an eye on that and, bring in the best practices from the industry to help you scale. Yeah.
Yeah, there definitely seems like, you have a really interesting mix. A question for you, the project manager versus product manager differentiation, do you have any like favorite questions you ask that kind of peel that back up? Sometimes project managers are really good at faking it. So
Yeah.
do you have any like great questions you use?
No, I think it starts from the outside in perspective, right? So, product managers need to know their customer. However you define the customer doesn't matter, but you need to know, who's your customer, what and the why aspect of product management, right? So, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? What problems are you solving? And do you understand the domain? I think sometimes program managers or project managers are kind of very deep entrenched in inside the organization. They don't have the outside in perspective. They have the inside. I won't say they don't even have maybe the inside out, but they might have the inside perspective, how things work. They are really managing teams and costs and efficiencies and to creating reports or decks to share and those types of things versus product management. I think the starting point is really like, do you know your customer? Do you know what business problems are you solving? You know, can you lay out a strategy for your product or a portfolio? And can you lay out a roadmap and how will you measure success? I think that's the starting point. Once you have that, I think everything else would follow. Right. So, and then also kind of, who are the teams you're cross functioning? Because the reason I'm in product management is frankly, it's you take in this role. There are few universities now teaching you product management, but again, I went to CMU. I'm very closely involved with CMU in their Masters of Product Management program. But I clearly see it's a fairly theoretical knowledge and it's not a practical knowledge. So this is the skill set you really l- learn on the job, right? And
Yeah.
you might come into this role from technology or marketing or consulting, doesn't matter, but you really get into and learn this role on the job. So I think it's really understanding what got you into thinking, getting into product management, what led you into that. I think those questions obviously help out define, right? Are you a true product manager or are you faking it in some way?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that. One of the common threads that I see with chief product officers like yourself that are trying to lift traditional businesses into the world of product um, is is that there's this trade-off with either on one side deep domain knowledge, and
Mhm.
then the other side, really, really good product manager or product leader and experience on that side. What do you like? How do you think about when you're hiring? Do they have to have both? Do you try to balance your team out? Like, how do you balance
No,
those two?
no, no, I don't think I look for like both because, I try to balance the team out, right? So because
Mhm.
domain knowledge, SME knowledge, you can get from sometimes internal within the company, and as a product manager, like that's been my experience. I have been industry agnostic, right? So, uh, I bring in the ability to quickly understand what it takes in this industry to work and who are the customers, what are they doing. So if you really come with a product management experience and that mindset, I think you should be able to pick up the domain aspect of it, right? You need to be really like, think of a CEO of a company, right? So you know you can the company could be doing 20 things and you cannot know everything, but you know how to orchestrate, how to lead the business, how to be a true CEO. So I think that's how I look at product management as, right? So you are the CEO of your product, and that's kind of the realm you're in, but you need to be able to quickly understand, what is the domain, who are your customers, what does it take, what are they looking for, what solutions you need to be selling, and who's the competition in this space. And so you should be able to pick that up, coming in as a true product manager. I think having that strategic mindset, I think you can then pick up in deep dive into any industry. Again, typically when you come in at the leadership level, you want to create like a 30, 60, 90-day plan, so that it's not, you create that framework so that you have an onboarding process, so that you're able to learn these kind of areas, which are very important. But I feel that it's you can figure it out, right? Again, even if it is like a very deep, like I remember my experience at Elsevier, we were working in a very deep chem informatics space, providing kind of data solutions to the pharma and the chemical industry. And, we had to talk to the customers, and, the number of customer engagements and discussions we had to understand their day in their life, and that's where the learning comes. And I think that's how you typically learn. So you don't need to really hire like domain experts.
I love that perspective. Thank you for sharing. Well, our time has gone quickly, so very quickly, actually. But now it's trying to transition to our quick question and answer section. Are you ready?
Sure. Yep.
All right. So quickly, what makes a great product leader?
I think true customer focus. I think, however you define the customer, but I think that's the starting point. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. What's your favorite tool right now and why?
Oh, my favorite tool right now is ChatGPT. So I think, I rely on it for so many things. And luckily at Clive, I have access to the enterprise edition. So, the things I do for my day-to-day job, but for, asking it to tell me about things, even like my team is like using that we go through a lot of hackathons of how do you create PRDs into, Jira stories and stuff like that. And we've created custom GPTs for a lot of interesting capabilities within the company. So I feel, it's just not about leveraging those capabilities to develop products and solutions, but how do you also use it in your day-to-day life? I think it's I think it's going to be a game changer. Yeah.
Do you have just a double click on this one? I know we said it was quick, but do you have a favorite question that you've asked and were amazed by the answer?
No, so when I'm hiring candidates, we're doing a lot of hiring recently. So, I ask, I send in the resume and say, what do you, and the job description, and you say, what do you think this person fit well within this job description, right? So I think I'm leveraging that interestingly, to provide some perspectives on the candidates, maybe after the interviews I do. So it's like, I'm kind of understanding how it thinks. Yeah.
Help you screen. That's amazing.
Help you screen. Yeah.
Are you reading anything interesting right now?
Yeah, I look to find time to read, but one of the interesting things I've, looking at reading is this book called Upstream. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's by Dan Heath. I think it's an interesting concept around, like some of the any challenge which happens upstream, right? And as it doesn't have to be a product person or a product leader or anything. It's just like, how do you sometimes we forget about those things happening, and because we are focused on like kind of more downstream effects. So like, how do you think about catching the problem before it happens early and solving for it? It's and it's also the concept of sometimes you're in a meeting, everybody's discussing a lot of things, and we think about this big red ball in the middle of the room, which is really the problem, and everybody leaves the room, and you just leave the red ball in the middle and walk away, right? So like the sense of ownership of saying, hey, I own this problem, and I'll go deep into it and fix it. So I think that's kind of the essence of that book, which is I think very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. I wrote it down. Gonna have to add that to
It's
my
a
very,
good
very
one to look
long
at.
list.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Last question for today. Who are you following right now?
I do. I follow quite a few folks, but I think my favorite person I follow right now is the CEO of Novartis. His name is Vas Narasimhan. So I think he's fairly active on LinkedIn, and I think he you know he comes from, I wouldn't say similar, but I would say close to similar background. But it's interesting, like he's a medical doctor, but now he's the CEO of Novartis. He is a lot of his engagement with his company and customers is pretty obvious, but also he has great insights on leadership and things like that. So I think it's a I think there are a lot of great folks to follow, but I think I kind of always try to follow him on LinkedIn and see what he's saying. And yeah,
I love that.
and
Awesome.
especially that company is so global and so critical in the pharma space. I think everything they do is like impactful. Yeah.
It's been wonderful to spend a few minutes with you today. I've learned so much. I've taken tons of notes. So thank you
Yep.
for sharing and certainly teaching me a few things. Again, congratulations on being one of the top CPOs this year.
Great. Thanks, Renee. Thanks for the time. Good conversation.
This is SC Moadi again, founder and chair of Products That Count. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on your favorite platform, including Spotify and Apple. And please check out our other resources at productsthatcount.org. They're designed to accelerate your product career and make product the most important function in business. Until soon.